After receiving approval from the International Atomic Energy Agency, Japan initiated a plan on the afternoon of August 24th to release treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi power station into the Pacific Ocean. On the same day, the spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs protested against Japan's release of nuclear-contaminated water, expressing firm opposition and strong condemnation. Ever since the Japanese government announced this plan on the 22nd, the CCP propaganda machine has been on an anti-Japan overdrive. State media then heavily publicized the dangers of nuclear radiation, causing a widespread panic, resulting in a crazy nationwide rush to buy salt, including Beijing, Shanghai, Fuzhou, Jiangsu, and Shandong. Numerous videos circulating online show that various types of salt have been completely sold out on supermarket shelves. Some supermarkets have had to impose purchase limits. Crowds of people have been seen lining up for long stretches outside supermarkets or the entrances of a salt company waiting to buy salt. In Weihai City, Shandong Province, a woman mentioned that 4 tons of salt were sold out in just an hour. At a salt field in Shandong, salt that was still evaporating and crystallizing and not yet ready for sale was directly bagged and brought by customers. On August 25th, residents in a major salt-producing county along the coast of Zhejiang Province rushed to the salt flats to buy sea salt. People who managed to buy salt left with their vehicles fully loaded. Some even purchased several 50-kilogram bags of salt, what is suspected to be industrial salt. One netizen commented that this guy might never need to buy salt again in his lifetime. A resident from Beijing mentioned that she didn't participate in the recent salt buying frenzy because she still had many packets of salt left from what she bought when the Fukushima nuclear disaster happened in 2011. The salt panic buying also led to a significant increase in salt sales on various online shopping platforms, with some even facing stock shortages. Reports from mainland Chinese media show that several fresh food e-commerce platforms, including Hema, showed out of stock or restocking for low sodium and non-iodized salt. Data from the Jingdong JD Fresh Supermarket indicates a month-on-month 208% increase in non-iodized salt sales and a 149% rise in iodized salt sales since the 22nd. In the afternoon of the 24th, an online platform of a chain supermarket in Beijing, well-stocked edible salt showed out of stock just an hour later. Offline, multiple supermarkets had to restock edible salt multiple times. Beyond the salt panic buying wave, there's also been a surge of anti-Japanese sentiment fueled by the Chinese Communist Party. The internet is filled with voices condemning Japan, shouting slogans like "Resist Japan" and "Boycott Japanese goods." On the evening of August 24th, in the Bayi Square in Nanchang of Jiangsu Province, there were public protests against Japan's discharge of nuclear wastewater. The crowd chanted, "Down with Japan." What's even more humorous is a young man from Henan called a random store in Tokyo, directly questioning them about discharging nuclear wastewater into the sea.
I you speak English? 我问你，为啥把那核污水排放到那大海里头？我还没有去过海边嘞。你放里头，你叫我咋去耍呀？
Indoctrinated by the CCP's propaganda, this middle school student could not accept Japan's discharge of nuclear wastewater and cried bitterly. The girl actually cut off Japan from the world map at home, saying that she wanted Japan to disappear.
我操！日本以前打我们，现在 现在还放那个水在里面。我现在想把他们那些放海水的那些人扔到海里面去喂鱼。
The China Customs Administration, citing to protect Chinese consumers' health, decided to fully suspend imports of seafood products originating from Japan starting on August 24th. But after the Customs Administration announced a ban on imports of Japanese seafood products, it was China's own seafood industry that was unexpectedly hit the hardest. Those live streaming sales of seafood not only faced widespread stagnation and returns but also endured unwarranted attacks online, leading to much distress. On the evening of August 24th, many live streams of Chinese fishermen selling seafood were flooded with malicious comments, pushing some hosts nearly to the point of breakdown. Some live streamers even ate their products on air to prove they were safe.
你让我干，让不让我干了？我卖货的，我不是上来跟你干架的。15年的努力啊，只在今天1个时辰之内什么都没有了。我要给你们保证。
A fisherman couple who live streamed to sell seafoods were on the brink of despair due to relentless online harassment and unreasonably lowered prices offered by the viewers.
亏钱，大哥大姐的，咱渔民不容易哟，捕个鱼捕个虾更不容易，以后都不知道怎么生活了。
On August 25th, not a single customer was seen in the seafood section of the Jiangnan Agricultural and Sideline Products Wholesale Market in Dongguan, Guangdong.
There's no one selling seafood in the supermarket today. Normally, at this hour, people would be queuing up for affordable seafood. Now it's eerily deserted.
With the bulk of their seafood unsold, many fishermen had no choice but to dispose of the less fresh products. Moreover, some fishermen stated that just a week after the seasonal fishing ban was lifted, they are now reluctant to go back to the sea. Their livelihood is on the line. Notably, fishing season in Zhejiang started 2 weeks prior, while in Fujian it began a week ago. Given the current uncertainties, Chinese fishermen face a dilemma. Should they head out to fish? Firstly, if the public's panic isn't alleviated, even seafood passing safety checks might not sell. Secondly, concerns loom about potential radiation exposure. Even before Japan's wastewater release, China's nuclear power stations had been discharging large volumes of wastewater. Previously, without testing, no one knew if there was a radiation overshoot. Should tests start now, radiation levels could potentially exceed safe limits. Thirdly, if seafood safety tests are officially implemented, will it be a random sampling or will every single fish be checked? How would the origin of each catch be verified? Fourthly, if any tainted seafood slips through the cracks, how will responsibility be determined? Many fishermen have taken loans amounting to millions to buy fishing boats and equipment. If they can't fish, it's nothing short of catastrophic for them. A comment from a mainland netizen on Weibo read, "I saw several live streams today. Commenters were either hurling insults or trying to haggle aggressively." Once the fishing moratorium was lifted, fishermen could go out to sea, and we looked forward to fresh seafood. After 3 tough years, ordinary people are already struggling. Now, the future for our fishermen looks even bleaker. Another mainland Weibo user questioned the motive behind the authorities' actions. This is just like shooting oneself in the foot. Japan's seafood exports to China amount to $600 million, and the Japanese government has promised full compensation. Now, the output of China's seafood industry is in trillions. If we stop consuming seafood, the ones who will suffer the most are our local fishermen. Will the Chinese government compensate them? The repercussions are also being felt by countless restaurants associated with Japanese seafood, even if they exclusively use domestic ingredients. According to Red Star News, staff from various Japanese restaurants in Beijing confirmed they've almost ceased selling Japanese ingredients. Renowned Japanese eateries in Guangzhou and Shanghai have made declarations that they don't use Japanese ingredients, while market supervisors in Shanghai's Xuhui and Jinshan districts have been conducting sudden checks on Japanese food products. Despite this, a wave of anti-Japanese sentiment appeared on mainland Chinese social media platforms. The Chinese media outlet Xinjing News conducted a poll on whether to continue consuming Japanese cuisine. Of the 92,000 netizens who participated, 81,000 responded with, "I won't eat it anymore. I'm very concerned about safety." Some analysts suggest that the Chinese authorities are using Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge to manipulate popular sentiment, stirring up anti-Japanese sentiment among the public. This could be an attempt to divert attention from domestic issues. Voice of America reports that China's strict ban may be politically driven rather than based on health risk. As Radio France International noted, the US, Japan, and South Korea issued a joint statement on August 18 condemning China's dangerous and aggressive actions and illegitimate maritime claims. The backdrop of this statement is Beijing's claims to almost all the sovereignty over the South China Sea, escalating tensions in the region. China's economy is currently in turmoil. Many are unemployed, and with natural and man-made disasters, public resentment is high. A Chinese netizen commented in a video, "Creating an enemy can unite a group of people. In other words, the government desperately needs distractions."
这几年呀，在专家的带领下，我是一刻不得闲呀。这几年我抢过盐，抢过蒜，抢完鸡蛋抢白面，抢酒精抢口罩，抢完大米抢调料，偶尔还得抢点药。这么说吧，除了银行我们抢过，市面上流通的我基本上抢了一个遍。这才刚消停几天呀。
It's well known that panic buying frequently occurs in mainland China, with items like rice, face masks, and cold medicine often being targets. What's noteworthy is that the recent salt buying frenzy in various places appears to be manipulated. Some businesses are taking advantage of the situation to inflate prices and make a quick profit. However, in reality, over 80% of the edible salt in China comes from mining unrelated to sea salt. According to public data from China National Salt Industry Corporation, the majority of mainland China's table salt is mined from underground rock salt or brine. The composition is 87% from mines, 10% is sea salt, and 3% is lake salt. China Salt Group is the world's largest salt production company, with an annual production capacity of over 10 million tons, of which 95% is mined salt and only 1% is sea salt. Thus, China cannot possibly have a salt shortage, especially not related to sea salt production. Analysts suggest there are two main reasons for the salt buying frenzy. First, a rumor that iodine in salt can prevent radiation. And second, public concerns that seawater pollution from nuclear leaks may impact sea salt production. So, is the nuclear wastewater discharge from Fukushima in Japan really exceeding standards? And does it pose a health risk to the public? According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, Japan's Fukushima tritium-containing wastewater discharge operation plan is to filter the stored tritium-containing wastewater through the multi-nuclear species removal equipment, ALPS, to make the concentration of radioactive elements other than tritium lower than that of Japan's nuclear power plant emission safety limits. Then use the seawater to dilute the tritium concentration of wastewater to below 1,500 becquerel per liter, which is 1/40th of the Japanese nuclear power plant tritium discharge limit of 60,000 becquerel per liter, or about the World Health Organization WHO International Drinking Water Tritium Safety Standard 1/7 of 10,000 becquerel per liter. Then it is discharged into the sea through the subsea tunnel to 1 kilometer offshore, and the total amount of tritium discharge every year is 22 trillion becquerel, which is equivalent to the discharge limit of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in normal operation before the nuclear disaster. Basically, the discharge design of tritium-containing wastewater in Fukushima, Japan, has passed the audit and pre-use inspection of the Japan Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRA, and complies with the safety regulations for wastewater discharge during normal operation of international nuclear power plants. Despite this, on the 25th, Wang Wenbin, spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, publicly criticized the situation.
日本政府无视国际社会的强烈反对，罔顾本国和他国人民的健康权、发展权、环境权，强行启动福岛核污染水排海，公然将核污染风险转嫁给全世界，这是极其自私自利、极其不负责任的行为。
Yet, Wang did not mention that Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge is only about 1/10 of China's output. Hong Kong's Zhong News reported that by the end of 2020, China had 16 nuclear power plants with 49 operational reactor units. However, the official figures for annual wastewater discharge remain undisclosed by China. Meanwhile, netizens have posted about China's marine pollution conditions.
This is the estuary under the Yongdong River bridge on Longkou Coastal Road in Shandong. Look, this is where the wastewater is discharged into the sea. Due to the tide receding, it's now all exposed. The pollution pipe extends deep into the sea. The water is dark and emits a pungent odor. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
On August 10, another video shot by a netizen showed blatant wastewater discharge during the day at Dalian's beachside. Massive amounts of unidentified dark wastewater flowed into the sea right next to where the people were enjoying the beach. Netizens question, why are there no protests? Have we become too accustomed to this illegality? Another netizen commented, a group of people who want Russia to drop nuclear bombs are indignant about Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge. In June, Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun reported that the Chinese Communist Party heavily criticized Japan for its utterly irresponsible and unacceptable wastewater discharge actions. However, Liaoning Hongyan River nuclear power plant discharged approximately 90 trillion becquerels. Zhejiang Qingshan 3rd nuclear power plant had a discharge of around 143 trillion in 2020. Fujian Ningde nuclear power plant discharged about 102 trillion. And Guangdong Yangjiang's 2021 figure was around 112 trillion. In contrast, Fukushima's annual release was maintained at 22 trillion, and even before the March 11 disaster, the annual discharge was only around 2.2 trillion, well below the World Health Organization's standards. However, China has made strong efforts to conceal and suppress the truth. Some netizens discovered that answers on Zihu explaining China's tritium emissions being 10 times that of Japan were all deleted. The Chinese Communist Party even blocked the official website of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Furthermore, there were reports of China National Nuclear Corporation urgently removing annual reports and discharge records. On August 23rd, Li Jianmang, A Chinese nuclear expert residing in the Netherlands posted on Weibo, citing multiple scientific data points, arguing that concerns about Fukushima's wastewater discharge are unwarranted. However, his post was deleted and his account was banned within 3 hours. Lee mentioned in his article that the total tritium equivalent stored in Fukushima's wastewater is less than 900 trillion becquerels. With a 30-year phased release plan, the annual discharge to the sea is less than 30 trillion becquerels. He added that the discharge limit set by the China National Nuclear Safety Administration for Daya Bay Nuclear Power Station is 225 trillion becquerels, which is 8 times higher than Fukushima's. Therefore, the yearly tritium release from Fukushima is not a cause for concern. 2 years prior, Hong Kong media Zhong News also reported in April 2021 that according to a government document from China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment in 2017, the Daya Bay nuclear power base, comprising 6 reactor units, had an annual liquid tritium discharge limit of 225 trillion becquerels, 10 times that of Fukushima's projected annual discharge. This article was also deleted. Regarding the CCP's concealment of the truth, Chen Kuide, the executive chairman of Princeton's China Studies Society and editor-in-chief of Reviewing China, commented during an interview on August 25th, calling it absurdly ridiculous. China's own wastewater discharge is 5 to 10 times higher than that of Fukushima. Yet they keep their citizens in the dark while accusing Japan of causing nuclear contamination that affects the world. Chen believes the CCP currently faces both domestic and international challenges, including recent floods and other disasters, as well as diplomatic isolation globally. They hope to divert public sentiment towards an anti-Japan sentiment. However, Chen added, this will soon pass. It's just like previous waves of boycotting Japanese and Korean goods. These episodes fade quickly and will surely be viewed with disgrace in history.